Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome to My Expanded Universe, a show where I go through the entire EU in chronological order as best I know how. Oh my Lanta, do we have a fun one to talk about now, folks. We are in the Young Jedi Knights era, and I'm so excited to be talking about these books. This whole series written by Kevin J. Anderson and his wife, Rebecca Moesta. Now, these two, I don't know what the lion's share of the writing was, but I happen to feel that it was Kevin J. Anderson, but I could be wrong on that. They seem to say they did partnering up. You know, Kevin J. Anderson talks a lot into his little recordings, and Rebecca probably typed them out and added her own little flourishings to it. I'm guessing here. Either way, this is a phenomenal series, and the first one we're going to talk about is, of course, Heir to the Force. Now, looking at that cover, it is so beautiful, right? It has, that's Dave Dorman's art. They used Dave Dorman, which was a good choice there. And Jason and Jaina look a lot like Han and Leia. I can see that in the picture, that both of them kind of resemble both their parents. So good job on that. Now, this book focuses on them going to Luke's academy for younger students. As we already know, Luke has this academy. He's established it. He's teaching maybe grown adults, but he's like, maybe I ought to go a little bit younger. You know, get some training while they're younger so that they can be even better in the Force. And so, of course, Jaina and Jason are there, as are other people. There is Lobaka, which is a friend of... I think he's like Chewbacca's nephew, I believe, and they gave Lubaka a translation droid, MTD. Now they did that because no one can speak Wookiee on Yavin 4, and so this way everyone can understand him. But they also did it because it makes Lubaka's character much more interesting when you know what he's saying. Now, another character that they introduce here is Tenel Ka. She is the wife of Teniel and Prince a Soldier from Courtship of Princess Leia. Yes, remember they got married, lived happily ever after, and they had a daughter as well. So now she is there, the red-headed warrior princess from Dothamir, and she has no sense of humor. She's very serious. She is here to be a Jedi, you know, classic examples. Everyone has their own little niche. Lobaka's maybe the mechanic kind of guy here, even though Jaina's very mechanically inclined too, I guess. But they all got, and the warrior princess is very serious and everything. Where Jason is more like kind of like an Aquaman. Hate to say that, but yeah, he is. He kind of talks to animals, right? He can communicate with them well. And so he has the Aquaman powers, but they give him a sense of humor to boot. So I don't know what he's like, a Deadpool Aquaman. Anyway, he's telling all these silly little jokes to Tenel Ka, who's not laughing, doesn't think they're funny, and they aren't funny. They're just really, they're plays on old human jokes, but he just kind of changed it up, What's the difference between a hut and a whatever? Yuck, yuck, yuck. And you make a little, a Jawa or whatever. I can't remember even any of the jokes right now. But they're really lame. You kind of roll your eyes like, oh, please don't make Jason this awful. And that's really my only complaint with the series, is that Jason was kind of playing second fiddle to Jaina. I was like, well, if they're twins, shouldn't they be equal in power? But at this point, they decided, hey, we'll have one talk to animals and one do everything else awesome, like lightsaber battles and, great pilot, great mechanic. Okay, so continuing on with the story here, Lobaka has fixed up a T-16 Skyhopper that Uncle Chewie gave him. He and the kids go rushing out, cruising, because you got your own little, it's basically your own car. And so you go driving out, right? So they're flying out the T-16 Skyhopper, getting into trouble on Yavin 4, and they see a glint of something in the forest. So they go to investigate. It is a downed TIE fighter from the Battle of Yavin. Now, the Battle of Yavin took place, I think at this point, like over 20 years ago, 23 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And so they're like, what? We found a TIE fighter here? And Jaina's like, let's fix it up. So they're starting to fix it up. Well, little do they know that the pilot of that TIE fighter is still there. Yes, his name is Quirrell, and he has been around since the first battle at the Death Star. I guess he just got left there and just forgotten about. That sucks, right? 23 years? Did he have a volleyball he was talking to the whole time? I don't know. But anyway, Quirrell wants them to finish fixing his TIE fighter so he can get back to the Empire. See, he doesn't know that the war's over. They're telling him that. He thinks it's a lie. He thinks they're exaggerating. No, it can't be true. The Empire's still out there. They're the biggest, baddest group in the galaxy. Even after so many years, they would live forever, right? Because kingdoms do not rise and fall like this. So Quirrell has him at gunpoint. I know Later on, Lobaka escapes. He fires at the T-16 Skyhopper, where Lobaka has to crash. He is separated from MTD, his translator droid. His translator droid kind of flew out of the Skyhopper early and kind of fell into the forest. So when Lobaka does get back to the temple, he's trying to talk to everyone, but no one can understand him because no one speaks Wookiee. So he has to call Han to let him know what happened. Meanwhile, Tenno Ka has also escaped from Quirrell, and she's gone into the forest. Now, of course, she's going to meet up with MTD, the translator droid, and they're going to have a little adventure where they're fighting off all these, dangerous and ferocious forest creatures. Now, meanwhile, Jason and Jan are trying to be friends with Quirrell. They're feeling bad for him, and they want to be friends with him. Now, if you think, Matt, how can one guy with a pistol, an old TIE fighter pilot with a pistol, hold down 4 potential Jedi, Force-inclined students? Remember, they're very new right now. They don't know how to do that much. So it makes sense that Quirrell can kind of hold them by gunpoint. And who knows, maybe eventually they could come up with a plan and all 4 of them could overwhelm them. But either way, it doesn't really bother me. In fact, how this ends is that they do get the TIE fighter fixed, and then Quirrell escapes, okay? He doesn't kill the kids are let go, and he escapes. He goes back to the Empire, or whatever's left, right? And they're wondering what will ever happen to him. Yeah, the spoiler, you'll see him again. But anyway, with Quirrell, he's very interesting, and I'll tell you why. I've already spoken about Quirrell before, many episodes ago. He was in one of the Marvel comic issues the day after the Death Star. If you recall this, day after the Death Star, Luke was fighting a TIE fighter pilot right after, the events of A New Hope. And he, after they had this serious dogfight, they both crash landed on Yavin. Well, Luke got rescued. He went off to kill the TIE fighter pilot, but then he found out the TIE fighter pilot was just a young kid like him. And he's like, I can't do this, So Han and Chewie find him, they pick him up, and he flies off with them, or takes off in a speeder with them. Well, the TIE fighter pilot just left there unconscious. And it's kind of funny. It's not, we don't need a story about what happened to him, but Kevin J. Anderson remembered reading that as a kid and going, well, what happened to the TIE fighter pilot? You just left him there. He was still conscious. He was unconscious when Luke was doing it, but he was kind of stirring. And so he's like, what happened to him? He just got left there. And so Kevin J. Anderson says, hey, maybe I can combine that and finish off his story. Talk about your continuity, right? A story literally 20 years in the making, 25 years in the making from when that comic book came out to seeing this book. Now, I don't know if there was any Marvel fans who put that together. I hadn't at the time because I hadn't read the Marvel comic books, but I thought that was a phenomenal connection there. Now, we'll also add that when this book came out, I had no idea it existed. I know, usually we see the up and coming stuff from Bantam. This one just flew under the radar, and I remember seeing it at Walmart and going, what is this? Went to one of my best friends, went, what is this? He went, what is that? I went, what is this? Young adult novel. We've never seen this before. He went off and bought one, and we just read through it. It's great. It's a great book. Definitely worth your time. I can't wait to talk about the other ones, and you know what? I'm going to do that next time. See you then.